Wait until you hear this shocking $36 million twist. She thought she owned it all, but my dad's last words left her speechless. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story is one you won't believe. The day my father's will was read, I sat in a quiet office, my heart racing. My father, James Carter, had built a fortune of $36 million, and with him gone, I thought I'd at least get a piece of his legacy. But before the lawyer opened the folder, my stepmother, Susan, leaned across the table with a smile that cut like a knife. "Don't expect a penny, Ethan," she whispered. "Your father and I discussed this. Everything's mine now." Her words hit like a hammer. For years, Susan treated me like I didn't belong, like I was a guest in my own father's home. Now, with my Uncle Thomas beside me, she looked at ease, like victory was hers. She crossed her legs, leaned back, and waited to watch me crumble. I clenched my fists under the table, fighting to stay calm. My mother, Linda, sat a few chairs away, her jaw tight with anger. She'd always shielded me from Susan's cruelty, but here, she was powerless. This moment would decide everything. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his voice steady as he began to read. Susan's smile grew with every sentence. She thought she'd won. But then he turned the page, cleared his throat, and read one line that erased her smile and let me breathe again. I never expected to walk into a room where my father's life's work would be divided like an auction. That morning, in a black suit that felt too heavy, the grief was raw. James Carter was gone, a giant who built his fortune from nothing and taught me the value of hard work. He didn't spoil me, but he made sure I knew I mattered. Yet, in that dusty law office with polished wood walls and heavy curtains, I felt like I was about to be erased. My Uncle Thomas, James's younger brother, sat beside me. Thomas had quiet strength, not wealthy like James, but grounding. As a boy, he'd told me stories of James's first real estate deal, built on sheer persistence. Thomas always said I was cut from the same cloth. Across from us sat Susan, my stepmother, in a black silk dress, hair perfect, her face hiding grief behind a faint, smug smile. I sat rigid, fists on my knees, while Susan angled toward the lawyer, waiting to claim her prize. Susan entered my father's life when I was 15, after my parents' divorce. My mother, Linda, had held us together with fierce love, though she lacked James's wealth. When James introduced Susan, I tried to be polite. She was younger, sharp, beautiful, attention-grabbing. I hoped we'd get along, but she saw me as competition, a reminder of James's life before her. Her cruelty was casual. If I visited on weekends, she'd sneer at my clothes. "Your father works hard for his reputation, Ethan. Try not to look out of place." At dinner, she'd roll her eyes if I spoke, reminding me I was just a child. When James wasn't around, she'd whisper things I'll never forget. "One day, it'll all be mine. You'll see." At first, I thought it was jealousy, but her words piled up like stones on my chest. I grew quiet around her, my visits to James's house shorter, our talks strained. I loved him, but hated the world Susan built around him. Yet, James had moments that showed he cared. He'd pull me aside, away from her sharp tongue, and ask about school, pushing me to excel in business, to never let anyone call me less. "You have my blood, son," he'd say. "That's worth more than any insult." Those words stayed with me, even as Susan tried to drown them out. Now, in that law office, I wasn't sure which James I'd face, the father who called me strong or the husband who let Susan dismiss me. My fear wasn't just about money, it was about whether James believed in me, whether I mattered enough for his legacy. Linda sat 2 seats away, here not for money, she had no claim, but to ensure I wasn't alone. Her eyes, sharp as glass, watched Susan, ready to defend me. The lawyer, Mr. Harris, cleared his throat and began reading. His voice was steady, emotionless, each word echoing off the wood-paneled walls. Susan's smile widened, savoring her victory. I felt her eyes on me, waiting for my face to break. She wanted me defeated, erased from James's story. Thomas leaned in, his voice low. "Patience, nephew. Your father was a man of principle." His words anchored me. I sat straighter, staring at Harris, bracing for what was coming. This wasn't just a will reading, it was a test of everything James taught me about resilience, pride, and patience. It wasn't only about $36 million, it was about my name's weight, my worth, and whether James's love survived Susan's poison. The room tightened like a noose as Harris read. Each word hit like a hammer to my chest. He started with small allocations, charities, minor gifts to distant relatives. My mind drifted, replaying Susan's smirk, her relaxed posture, like she'd already won. When Harris said Susan would get certain household accounts and personal property, she exhaled, tilting her chin up, her satisfaction obvious. She glanced at me, lips curving. "See, it's all mine, just like I promised." Heat crawled up my neck, but I stayed still. Linda's hand tightened on her purse, her eyes burning toward Susan. Thomas sat upright, listening closely, like he expected something Susan didn't. Harris continued, naming properties and assets falling to Susan: a Florida vacation home, a vineyard, James's art collection. Each one cut me deeper, her confidence pressing harder. Susan leaned in, whispering just for me, "You should have prepared yourself. You were never meant for this." Her words stirred memories, the nights she sneered at me, the mornings she made me feel like a stranger in James's home, the countless times she called me irrelevant. I almost believed her. What if James let her win, forgot his son? My jaw clenched, fighting the sting in my chest. James once said, "Strength isn't shouting louder than the world, it's standing when they expect you to fall." Those words flickered, nearly drowned by Susan's triumph. Harris paused, rustling papers. I caught Susan's reflection in the polished table, her smile growing, radiating heat. She thought it was over. Then Harris cleared his throat. "Before I continue, this will was updated 3 months before Mr. Carter's passing. Every clause is legally binding, reflecting his final wishes." Susan's smile held, but mine wavered. Recent changes, unknown to me, could mean he'd shifted everything to her, moving on from me and Linda. Doubt chained my chest. I glanced at Linda, her eyes saying, "You're not alone." The pressure eased, but Susan wouldn't let me breathe. She leaned closer, hissing, "Do you see now? He chose me, trusted me, not you. You were just his practice family, now it's my turn to carry his name." Her words cut sharper than ever. My fists curled, wanting to shout, to tear her smile apart. But Thomas's hand steadied my arm, his whisper firm, "Hold yourself together, Ethan. Your father wasn't blind." Those words hit differently. James saw through people, once saying wealth reveals true character. Maybe this was the moment he'd prepared me for. Harris continued, listing stock portfolios, investments, corporate holdings. Susan's breathing lightened, savoring each word. My chest grew heavier, like being buried under James's empire. Susan spoke openly, "I told you, Ethan. Your father trusted me with everything. Find peace in that, he knew you weren't ready." Linda's face hardened, nearly snapping back, but she held her tongue. Thomas's grip kept me steady. He knew Susan would twist the knife, knew I'd need strength. This wasn't just about inheritance, it was James's final judgment of me, whether he believed in his son or the woman he married. I teetered on despair's edge. Harris shifted, scanning the final page. Susan's smile flickered, a brief shadow of doubt. I sat taller, heart pounding, the tension sharpening like a blade. Something was coming. For the first time since entering, I let myself hope. The air grew thick, every read sentence pulling me deeper into fear that James left me nothing. Susan's confidence suffocated, her legs crossed, hand delicate on the chair, smile unbroken, until Harris slid a new page out. His mouth tightened, eyes flicking to me before returning to the document. A crack in the monotony, enough to make me sit up. Susan noticed, her smile faltering. My chest mixed dread and hope, her whispers echoed, saying I didn't matter, but I decided I wouldn't crumble. James's words returned, "The world will humiliate you, don't hand it your strength. Stand tall, even with nothing." I uncrossed my arms, held Susan's gaze. Her smirk twitched, irritated by my refusal to shrink. Thomas murmured, "That's it. Don't let her win before the last word." Harris read, "To my wife, Susan Carter, I leave the household we shared and a lifetime allowance of $150,000 annually from the estate's trust." A thunderclap. Susan's smile froze, her hand gripping the chair. She'd expected millions, not an allowance less than a month of James's income. Her mask cracked, raw fear showed before she brushed back her hair, composing herself. But the damage was done. Harris paused, letting the words settle. My pulse hammered. Linda's eyes gleamed, like she knew what was next. Thomas squeezed my shoulder, as if he'd expected this. Susan's voice cut through, brittle, "This can't be right. My husband wouldn't limit me to an allowance. He trusted me with everything." Harris didn't flinch. "Mrs. Carter, these are Mr. Carter's final instructions, signed and witnessed 3 months before his passing." Susan forced a hollow laugh. "Of course, the bulk of the estate is still mine. James wanted me secure." My chest burned. Her foundation was cracking. I leaned forward, voice calm. "Funny, Susan. I don't recall Dad saying he built his empire for you, he built it for his family." Her head snapped toward me, eyes flashing. "You think you know what he wanted? You were a child when he decided. You don't understand the man he became." I met her glare. "I know the man who raised me, he never turned his back on his son." Something shifted, Susan rattled, no longer untouchable. My speaking, my refusal to bend, took something back from her. Harris prepared the final clause. My chest swelled with anticipation and dread. Susan sat forward, nails digging into her palms, no longer smug, she feared losing everything. Linda's hand brushed mine, Thomas nodded slightly, his lips hinting at a smile. He knew James wouldn't leave me behind. I inhaled, ready to face the verdict without fear, no longer the boy Susan mocked, but the man James raised. Harris's fingers pressed the final page, his voice heavy. To my beloved wife, Susan Carter, I leave our shared home and a $150,000 yearly allowance, ensuring her comfort. Susan's lips parted, face blanching. She opened her mouth, but Harris raised his voice. The entirety of my estate, real estate holdings, business shares, investments, assets totaling $36 million, I leave in full, permanent ownership to my only son, Ethan Carter. A thunderclap. Silence gripped the room. My breath caught. I'd hoped for something, not everything. Susan lurched forward, voice desperate. What? That can't be right. There's a mistake. Harris lowered the page, calm. Mrs. Carter, this document was prepared with your husband's direct input, signed 3 months before his passing. No mistake. Susan slammed the table. No. He promised me security, said I'd carry his legacy. You expect me to believe he gave it all to this boy? Linda sat straighter, jaw set in triumph, silent. Thomas leaned forward, voice edged. James was clear, Susan. If this is what he wrote, it's what he meant. He trusted his son. Susan turned her fury on me. You think you deserve this? You were barely around, let him down countless times. He told me you weren't ready, lacked his discipline. I met her glare, unflinching. He may have doubted me sometimes, but he trusted me in the end. That was his choice, not yours. Her hands trembled. You manipulated him. It's the only explanation. Her voice broke. She turned to Harris. Read it again. There's a hidden clause, a condition. Harris cleared his throat. No conditions. The estate belongs entirely to Mr. Ethan Carter. Susan's face collapsed, panic replacing elegance. She pressed a hand to her forehead, shaking her head. Inside me, something shifted. For years, Susan's cruelty made me doubt my worth, question if James saw me as a burden. Now, his faith in me was undeniable, not just money, but trust, recognition, his final lesson. Thomas's eyes shone with pride, giving a nod. This is the man James raised. Linda whispered, gripping my hand. He believed in you all along. Susan's voice rose, ragged. I'll challenge this. I'll take it to court. You can't give him everything and leave me scraps. Harris remained calm. You may pursue legal action, Mrs. Carter, but this will is airtight. Your husband protected his son's inheritance. Susan's fury turned darker. You think you won, Ethan? Money won't make you strong. You'll fail, and you'll wish you had me to guide you. I stood, done with her chains. No, Susan. I don't need your guidance. My father believed in me, that's more powerful than anything you could take. Her face paled, lips trembling, no reply. She slumped, defeated. Harris gathered the documents. That concludes the reading. It ended Susan's reign, her whispers, her power. The $36 million on my shoulders wasn't just wealth, it was vindication. James saw me, trusted me, chose me. I looked at Susan, frozen, her silence louder than her threats. Linda and Thomas stood with me, shielding me from her glare. I walked to the door, steps lighter. Before leaving, I turned to Susan. You were right about one thing, he made a choice. But it wasn't yours. It showed who he truly trusted, and it wasn't you. Her eyes burned, but she had nothing left. The will had spoken. I stepped into the hallway, breathing deeply, free from Susan's weight. James's legacy was mine, not just his fortune, but his belief, carved in stone. She could never take that. Walking out felt like a new life. The crisp air hit me, and for the first time in years, I breathed without Susan's shadow. The verdict was clear. James trusted me. His empire, his legacy, his $36 million were mine. But the money wasn't what mattered, it was the clarity. Susan's lies, her claims I was unworthy, had chained me, made me fear James agreed. I never asked him, scared of the answer. Now I had it, he chose me. Linda followed, her hand steady on my arm. Your father knew who you were, Ethan. He was proud. Her voice held relief and triumph. She'd watched Susan humiliate me, fought silently, prayed for truth. Today, it arrived. Thomas joined us, his weathered face smiling. Your father never doubted you. He wanted you to prove yourself, you did. Carry his name well. The weight of his words hit. $36 million was responsibility, not just wealth. James built brick by brick, deal by deal, with vision and grit. Inheriting his estate meant proving his trust. Susan stayed behind, stunned, her world collapsing. She'd thought she'd control James's empire, but got only comfort, not power, a deliberate distinction. James saw her ambition, protected me. That night, alone, the documents on my desk, $36 million, companies, properties, humbled me. James didn't give these to make me comfortable, but to challenge me. I recalled his lessons, early mornings, not wasting energy on naysayers, knowing his blood ran in me. Those mattered more than any number. Days later, I saw people's true colors. Friends called after years, relatives congratulated me, some wanting favors, others money. James's warning rang true. Wealth reveals character. I saw clearly now. The biggest shift was escaping Susan's shadow. Her insults, smirks, threats had dug into my self-worth. Now her power was gone, her lie that I was insignificant dead. At James's grave the next week, I stood silently, then spoke. You trusted me, Dad. I won't waste it. I'll honor what you built, ensure no one says your son wasn't strong enough. A promise to him, and myself. The lesson was simple but powerful. People will call you small, unworthy, unable to stand. If you listen, you give them your strength. Trust yourself, your roots, and no one can erase you. Susan thought she'd won, thought she could rewrite James's legacy, strip my place. But the truth stood taller than her lies. James believed in me. That belief, more valuable than any bank account, is what I carry forward. That's why I smiled when Harris read that final sentence. If this story moved you, like the video to share it. Tell someone who needs a reminder of their worth. Comment below, what would you do in my place? Subscribe for more stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.